So he's exiled until his death. He's going to die in 1821.
Thank God.
But he's done now, finally. And Louis XVIII returns, and he'll be the king until he dies in the 1820s.
Yeah.
But now the Allies deal a little bit more harshly with France, because, like, you just didn't learn France. As soon as you showed back up.
Louis just fled. Like, he was just like, oh, okay. And then just, like, left.
And as soon as he left, everybody in France was like, yeah, Napoleon again. Woo. So now we got to teach you this lesson,
I
right?
understand, but, like, at the same time, he could have been like, hey,
Right.
She did his best, but he could have been a little bit.
It's like, how many times must I teach you this lesson, France? All right. The Congress of Vienna. We're going to talk about the Congress of Vienna again later on. All right. The Congress of Vienna were basically members of the Quadruple Alliance and other countries who wanted to return to a more traditional conservative order. So from the time that he advocated the first time until 1815, so they were actually meeting like while he was also back fighting. So from 1814 until 1815, in that year and a half period, the Congress of Vienna is meeting where it's made up of most of the Quadruple Alliance, trying to restore a more traditional control over Europe again and try to recreate what?
No.
Your favorite thing? Balanced power, right? It's led by Metternich. So Clemens von Metternich, this guy right here, the Austrian foreign minister, will be the leader and coordinator of this effort. So the two principles they're guided by are balance of power and legitimacy. They want this to be governed by balance of power and legitimacy. Because they're not just restructuring France, they're restructuring several countries that he jacked up on the way. Like the Netherlands and Belgium and Germany and Spain. So he's trying to restore order in those countries, but they're also trying to put back monarchies they believe that belong there. Not like his brother Joseph I of Spain. So they're trying to put legitimate monarchs back in power that will oversee the country. So the four countries, Austria, Britain, Prussia, Russia, are the ones who are leading the effort in the Congress of Vienna. So Austria, Britain, Prussia, Russia, we're all involved in this. Sorry. Or was World War stuff this stuff?
World War Zero.
Were they young and were they wild? Did they take the fun off? Did they disappear for a while?
Jeez. All right, so two goals here. Two goals. Number one, redraw Europe's borders and go back to pre-1792 borders. So redraw Europe's borders and go back to pre-1792 borders. Which has this map you see right here is basically that, pre-1792 borders. So they want to redraw Europe and go back to pre-1792 borders, which they do. And two, they want to restore legitimate monarchs on the throne. They want to put legitimate monarchs, not Napoleon's family, legit monarchs.
You see, that's what my problem is. Why do they get to decide that those are legitimate?
Because they were there longer.
But who decided to begin with that they were?
Whenever they conquered their people a long time ago.
You see, Napoleon did just that.
Exactly. They just didn't like it. They didn't like his style.
He didn't have the same feng shui.
Yeah.
The same class.
All right. Anyway, so guided by the ideology of conservatism, which that's going to be a big theme later on. Their efforts internationally and domestically brought an era of stability to Europe. So you're going to enter this era of stability going forward. Well, there's not another major war until basically World War I.
See, that's my problem with stability, no.
You don't want stability, right? So this is going to usher in an era of stability for the next 100 years until World War I hits in the 19-teens. And it doesn't mean there's not any wars. There are going to be some wars, but it's like minor wars here and there. Not like a big European-style war. That's World War I, or the Great War. All right. So where we're moving next, this stuff is not all in your textbook. So everything I'm about to give you is stuff that I have to give you from the key concepts. I chose to put some of this in here. Like this stuff we're going to talk about first is kind of 1600s. But I didn't want to put in the last unit because the last unit was just so jam-packed as it was. So I'm putting it here, and we're going to address some art, literature, and some religious stuff by Monday, and we'll be good for the test by Tuesday. But this stuff is not in your textbook, so make sure you get it down. All right, anyway. The evolution away from Baroque style. It's been a while since we checked in with arts. The last major style of art was Baroque in the late 1600s.
That's like the dramatic, emotional.
Right.
Right?
So as the authority of the church and monarchy continued to wane in Europe, by the 18th century or the 17th century, art and literature began to increasingly reflect the values of the growing middle class. So that's kind of your theme here, that in the 1600s, going into the 1700s, the authority of the church and monarchy are declining, especially once the Enlightenment hits. And so as a result, art and literature in the 1700s begins to reflect more of the values of the growing middle class. But first, before we go into the 1700s art, we got to go back to the 1600s and talk about the Dutch art. So they want us to talk about the Dutch Golden Age art movement, which is Baroque. So the Dutch painters, these three guys we're going to learn about, they're Baroque artists. We've already learned about Rembrandt before, but they want you to learn about these other two guys too. So the Dutch Golden Age happened in art in the mid-1600s. It is Baroque. The art from the Dutch Golden Age highlighted the increasing emphasis on private life and the growing importance of middle class. So the Dutch Golden Age art highlighted the increasing emphasis on private life and growing importance of the middle class, meaning they're not like drawing pictures of like the church and religious stuff or monarchs necessarily. They're drawing a lot of normal people, things like that, which you can kind of tell from these paintings. So the Dutch artists in the 1600s began to emphasize private life and the growing importance of the middle class during the mid-1600s, and that's these three guys right here. This is how art is changing, is what they're kind of going for here in the key concept. Anyway, so the first guy is Frans Hals, this dude right here. So Frans created realist paintings of a wide variety of humanity. So he creates a lot of realist paintings of a wide variety of humanity. You kind of see that there. Drawing regular people, doing regular things. So he created a lot of realist paintings of a wide variety of humanity. He portrayed wealthy and influential aristocrats. So he portrayed wealthy and influential aristocrats. Clerks, guild members, entertainers, working class, just regular people. That's kind of the long story short there. A lot of regular people, essentially. So that's Frans Hals. Then you get the more well-known Dutch Golden Age guy, which is Rembrandt. Rembrandt was a very prolific Dutch painter and printmaker. Early on in his career, he does do a lot of portraits and biblical scenes. So early on in his career, he does a lot of, yes?
How do you say his last name?
Van Rijn. Mm-hmm. So he painted mainly, early on, mainly portraits and biblical scenes, but many of his more respected works come later on when he does common people. So like pictures like this, or paintings of this, when he does more common people, that's where he gets more respect and what's more celebrated.
Is that dude dead?
Yeah, they're looking at cadaver.
Oh.
That's science.
Yeah,
I
science.
thought,
You're looking at the human.
but I thought they didn't like
Hebrews.
cadavers.
Yeah, so many regular people in regular settings and doing regular stuff. He revealed a deep sense of humanity. All right, have a good weekend. We'll finish this up on Monday and be ready for the test Tuesday. See ya.